Well, welcome back. We are looking at new polls this morning. A new poll from the University of North Florida shows President Trump leading President Biden nationally by 2 points. President Biden says he thinks Florida is now in play this election cycle, even opening his first field campaign office in Florida. While President Trump says he's confident that he can flip New York red. Watch this.
There's a new poll out that shows you're 10 points of possibly, you're 10 points behind President Biden in New York. Do you think it's doable to win New York?
We're very close in New York. I think we're going to do very well, and we're going to make a play for New York. We're going to run very hard in New York. New York, we have a good chance of winning New York.
Tomi Lahren, Doug Collins with me this morning. Tommy, what do you make of it? You think New York can be flipped?
Listen, it's ambitious, but I like the ambition from our former president. I will tell you, outside of New York City, I spend a lot of time in central and upstate New York, and there are Trump flags everywhere, a lot of conservatives. It's very similar in states like California. It might look like the loud liberal voters are the majority, and they may be, but there are still a lot of undercover conservatives, a lot of people that are unhappy with Biden's America. So I wouldn't rule President Trump out, and I like the ambition. That's what we need. Can't get complacent, can't be excited about national polls. We got to get to work, and we got to get out the vote on the Republican side.
Well, it's quite creative of President Trump to be jamming in, talks with people, construction workers here and there, as he tries to jam in some campaign work in the middle of being in a courthouse all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that's what's interesting here, though, is a longer play. You're seeing a much more political Donald Trump, and I don't mean that in terms of the things that he says. Those are policies, but his team and he are focused on winning America by also not only winning the presidency, but also the House and the Senate. Our good friend Lee Zeldin showed that there are a lot of people in New York who are willing to vote conservative because they're tired of what they're seeing. And by him focusing, at least focusing on New York, then it helps those House races down ticket. It helps DA's races down ticket. It helps state House, state Senate races. These are the kind of things that we need to do as a conservative party, as a Republican, to basically go back and do what Democrats have been doing for years, building up areas in which we don't think we can win maybe statewide, but we can win in a lower level and begin a process that can affect local races and House and Senate races.
Yeah, and then there's this new research poll from Pew showing where a majority of voters are putting their doubt in this matchup. Just 15% of voters feel extremely or very confident that Biden is physically fit. 65% say he's not at all fit enough to be president. President Biden making a gaffe at a glitzy New York fundraiser hosted by Michael Douglas yesterday, saying June 6th instead of January 6th. Meanwhile, voters are more confident in President Trump's physical fitness, although they're less confident that they claim he will act ethically in office. 26% said they feel extremely confident in that. 59% say not at all. Tommy, and then there's this beauty of President Biden this week talking about 4 more years, but of course he was relying on the teleprompter, and that's not a good idea for this president. Watch this.
Folks, imagine what we can do next. 4 more years, pause.
4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years.
Yeah, he wasn't exactly supposed to read pause, but he said 4 more years, pause, because that was what was in the teleprompter, Tommy.
Yeah, Joe Biden is actually the human definition of the word pause. But I think beyond the gaffe here, what really is concerning to me is that President Biden doesn't seem to have any grasp on what he's actually supposed to be reading, which tells me somebody is writing this entirely for him, and he's not giving it a look-see beforehand. That's what's really terrifying. Who is running our country? I don't think it's Joe Biden. I don't know who it is, but I'd sure like to know, Maria.
What do you think, Doug?
Hey, I think if he actually ended it with "Stay classy, DC," I mean, he is the classic Ron Burgundy. I mean, really? I mean, are you kidding me? Yeah, it's sad, but we've seen this, Maria and Tom. We've seen this for the last, several years. He doesn't have a grasp on policy, and if you just notice, I mean, again, for people who speak all the time, look at his face when he's reading that speech. Look at it when he read. Look at the face. Look at the facial expression. He had no clue to what he was doing right there. It was like 4 more years, pause. This is a concern. I think it's being brought out very concerningly here that he is sleepwalking many ways through this.
Well, you know what? If it weren't so serious and if it weren't so dangerous, it actually would be funny. But you got me
Yep.
there with the Ron Burgundy. Stay classy, D.C. That was just too much.